All right, hope everybody's settled back in. Next up, I'd like to introduce Manuel Navarro and Kat Schneider of IA Interior Architects. Their session will explain how Unity Reflect enables immersive design review and coordination to empower better collaboration and faster decision-making, bridging the gap between designers and decision makers. So Kat, if you're ready, please take us away.
Awesome, thank you.
Howdy everyone, thank you for your time and the opportunity to be here today. Kat and I will be sharing how we've been able to leverage Unity Reflect on the design of the Unity Austin project that we were so fortunate to win back in, I think it was February or March of this year. And using Unity Reflect has really helped us make decisions faster and collaborate more efficiently, and working in a very distributed fashion that we were forced into all of a sudden. So Kat, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So as many of us have felt over, I guess, 9 months ago, we were forced in this position where we were forced to go home, shelter in place, and some people were able to work at home much more easier than others. But that forced us to change our design approach. So as I mentioned, 9 months ago, everyone was forced home, and then sorry. And no problem. And as we progress in time, there's a handful of people that are going back to work, and there's still a large contingent that are remote. And we are seeing a lot of our clients in the workplace arena that are really reevaluating their real estate and trying to understand what does the future look like for their talent and their employees. And so that is changing how we are delivering our projects. So if we go to the next slide, it'll give you a little glimpse of the old school way of how we used to deliver projects 9 months ago. It's a very messy, chaotic process where you start off with sketches and these ideas, and we pin it up, and it's a very tactile experience. And that has evolved very quickly. If you go to the next slide. So these ideas typically started off with sketches, then we were inputting them into CAD or Revit, whatever model you're using. And then we would create visualization to share with our clients. And that is a very kind of process-oriented way of doing things where the architect or the designer is in control of that whole model. And this example shows how the architect would produce the drawings, then it would be created with a model, and then would be sent out to our consultants for coordination. And if there's any changes, which there always is, that would go back to the architect so we could re-input the information and start over again, and then redistribute that information. So that said, it was a very time-consuming model, and we are quickly adapting to a new world. And so that is painful and time consuming because it takes a long time to prepare the data, and then it's shared with many parties along the way. Designers aren't developers, so we can't quickly move and adapt as fast as our peers in other industries. Data is lost whenever we do this, along with communication streams being broken down. And then the speed doesn't allow with us, like how fast we're meeting with our clients and how fast they want to see design changes. Typically, it would take weeks to get this these changes done, updated to share with our clients, but that is evolving in a new way. So Kat, do you want to talk about how the single point of truth that we're discovering these days?
Definitely. So this is, now that we've been using Reflect as part of the process, this is really the new model that we're evolving to, which is we're still, handing off a model, but instead of handing it off a handful of times, we're creating a central access point that other consultants and project stakeholders can participate in. So again, to go back to this idea of single point of truth, the project model still gets distributed out, but our engineers and consultants and even the client and end users can start to participate in and engage with that content in whatever form of technology they have. And so the way this is done leveraging Reflect is that we're able to use Reflect as sort of the great equalizer of these many AEC-centric software platforms. So right now, You can port over Navisworks, Revit files, SketchUp, Rhino, and there's even a BIM 360 integration as well. That content gets handed off either locally or to a cloud server where it can then be distributed out to Reflect viewers. So those can show up on PC, iOS, HTC Vive, and they also have an AR component, both with trackers and also trackerless, which is new. So in comes Unity Reflect, which has been very helpful for us. And just in case anyone is new to it, Unity Reflect is a BIM and design coordination solution that has allowed us to connect all project members in immersive and real-time information, regardless of where they are physically distributed in geographic location. And it's also served as a one-stop shop for a lot of different formats of BIM data. And so far in our experience, at least, and we'll share some examples of how this has impacted our design process, we've been able to more clearly communicate design intent in a more interactive and engaging way. We've also definitely felt the benefit of faster decision-making by just being able to have our meetings live in this file, and also, you know, it can be a take-home that people can look at and kind of think about before they come to the next project meeting. Again, to go back to this idea of any platform, anywhere, being able to connect with stakeholders. And then something that we'll touch on at the end is the ability to pull that BIM data into the Unity editor and build customizations on top of it.
And so now we're going to share with you the Unity office in Austin. So as I mentioned, I think we won the project at the end of February, and then we were forced into lockdown in March. And so we had decision makers all over the country. And then the team in Austin became very distributed very quickly at that time. So they're moving into this building called the Foundry 2, which is on the east side of Austin, and they're taking the 6th floor, full floor. And they have a huge terrace that faces downtown. And this is an exterior rendering of what that building looks like, designed by Michael Shu here in Austin, which is where I sit. And so typically we start every project off with a visioning session with all the stakeholders to level set expectations from an aesthetic standpoint and a function standpoint. And what's really interesting about the Unity offices across the globe is that each one is unique but unified, and so they really tie back to the location that they're building in for their teams. And so we started the conversation discussing high level about Austin and the qualities of Austin, how it's informal and sleek and rugged and boundless. And so this really is an example of the visual position that we started to tell our story. And I think one thing that is interesting with this journey of being distributed and not being with clients face to face as we had typically done before is that we really have to start thinking about conveying our stories in a more cinematic approach, which is something that we need to augment our staff, I think, in the future as we're learning how to work in this new digital design environment. And so the next page really puts this idea in more of a diagrammatic fashion to start to develop the architecture inside the space. So we took a deep dive understanding what Unity Reflect does and what Unity is and how they're, you know, a game engine, and what that allows you to do is tell stories. And so what we wanted to do is tell the story of Austin through the lens of the cowboy and the drifter, or cowboy and the hippie. And so what you'll see in this tour is these two characters in kind of superimposed into an architectural language. So this is the elevator lobby that's for visitors and employees. And what we created is this language of rigidity and fluidity. So this reception area, it's more seen through the lens of the cowboy, which is more rigid. You have hints of leather, drapery. We have a VR lounge, which is that space to the left, and we're calling the Hidden Valley Ranch room. And there is going to be a little Hidden Valley Ranch kind of bottle hidden in there somewhere. So what this allowed us to do is to walk through this project in full with the clients and all the decision makers and consultants, and really showcase all the spaces that we are creating and make decisions together. You'll see a little nod to horse bits on the banquette there. We have some interview rooms and a boardroom. This boardroom is clad in a charred wood, which is called shashujiban. So we really wanted to create this sensory experience where when you walk in, you kind of have a hint of leather in the air along with some charred wood. And there's a little hint of the balcony. And what Kat's doing, this is a pre-recorded walkthrough, but what Kat's doing is turning on and off different categories so we can share that with the client as we're presenting. And so this is a hint of the boardroom. And I should also back up and say that this is a moment in time. This was design development right before we moved into construction documents to get buy-in from the client. And this is using Unity Reflect right out of the box. So we don't have, this is not being used for high fidelity render outputs. It's really to make decisions quickly with the client and consultants. As we work our way into the break room, there's a all gender restroom that we're including as part of the hospitality entry sequence. So everyone's able to see what that looks like and feels like. And then we work our way into the all hands break room with a full kitchen component. And the decisions for furniture are still being made today. So what you see a lot of in terms of materiality are still being selected at the moment. And then the Austin graphic is just a placeholder as we are developing that as well.
Yeah, so Manny's kind of alluding to, this is very much where we're at right now and how we're using it as part of the process. So every Friday, this model is being updated. In the past, we've needed to update it more frequently just so that we can capture what the latest and greatest is, but it's really allowed us to engage stakeholders in a different way in a real-time fashion where they're not waiting for the next design presentation. They can open their iPad and tune in to where we're at and see this, you know, cross-platform on any device. They also have the ability to, like we're doing in here, toggle on and off different categories if they want to look at how the space could function independently of furniture or for future use cases. And there's also some other functionality just in the Reflect viewer on day one, no customizations, that are really helpful for enhancing how we talk about design and how we present and package design in an accessible way.
Thank you, Kat. This is a little glimpse into the music room. So we're tying into that, you know, Austin culture. The team here in Austin for Unity has a big love for music. And so we're dedicating a little space for them to basically jam out. And then we're walking into the part of the plan, which is more kind of drifter vibe, bohemian. And then we have this kind of neon that goes through the ceiling, which is alluding to a lariat, which is tying back to the cowboy. So this is a blend of the both architectural languages here. We have a fireplace. This space is a more hotel-like experience in terms of touchdown or hoteling type desks, so people can come and work for a part of the day. And then we'll have some locker storage. And then a lot of the lighting ties back to these ideas as well as along with the materiality through the space. And then we'll share with you kind of what we did with some decision making in this specific area in just a second. And then now we're working our way back to the reception, but it's been really great to be able to use this product and be able to share our story with the end users as well, as we are able to share this with a link for everyone to be in and kind of navigate.
Definitely. Yeah, it's given us the ability to, as you're seeing here, just walk around the entire floor plate and also allow people to kind of look at the areas that they're most invested in, whether it be folks on the AV side or you know, really any project stakeholder. This is an example of the BIM 360 workflow, and so we just wanted to mention that it is very easy. We use BIM 360 on the majority of our projects anyway, and so the direct integration allows us to, as you're seeing here, select something from our published documentation model and then link it over to Unity Reflect just in a web portal. So it's very easy. It takes a lot less time than having to open up our softwares and then port them in, and so that's been very valuable to us as well. And this is an example of one of many decisions that were able to be made in Reflect. So this is a snapshot in time at our design development phase of the project, and we were jumping around the model as part of a regularly scheduled meeting, and we had someone raise their hand and say, hey, I think the way this AV booth is laid out and the way the window is placed and the shape of it is going to create some problems for us. And so, we would never necessarily render inside the AV booth, but we were able to just jump inside of it and actually arrive at a decision without having to go through multiple back and forth of emails and things like that. It was much more of a participatory experience that we could just identify what the critical path items were to get into the design. And then this is a progression about a week or two later of where that same model stands with that reflected change so that folks can see that their concerns were addressed and also verify that we're delivering on the very functional aspects of Unity space. And I'll jump ahead here.
And then moving to the library area that we were just talking about, we initially designed this to be more of an open seating type space. And then as we presented that design development presentation of that break room, Unity's workplace needs are changing. And I think everyone's workplace needs are changing as they look at their real estate. And so what they're kind of anticipating is more people coming in less frequently into the office for a smaller amount of time. So they asked us to take a look at adding more individual one-person rooms for people to take away or to kind of duck into a room for a couple hours or a full day. And so we were able to accommodate this change fairly quickly, upload the model and share that to everyone and make the decisions much faster. And with that, we were also able, actually, I'll pause. Kat, you can talk about this and I'll jump on to another.
No worries. This is also an example of something that's available just day one, no customizations in the viewer. And I should mention the viewer has been updated since we, experimented with this feature, but this is us being able to toggle through time of year, time of day, UTC offsets. So you're able to also give people the ability to look at and explore things on their own as well, without necessarily having to be part of a meeting with us to say, what is this going to feel like at 3 p.m.? Where is my sort of projected favorite spot in the office going to be? And so it's definitely a part of that interactive conversation as well. And this is an example. So we used Reflect during the contractor selection process. And so we had mentioned before, the ability to kind of bring multiple different software file types into one platform has been invaluable, because as our potential contractors were exploring what it would mean to engage in this project and actually build it and bring it to fruition, they're also able to port over these systems files and participate in the design file. So they can use this to do clash detection. We can also see how it's overlaying over our project, and it just eliminates a lot of conversations having to be had, because we can just refer to this point of truth and moment in time as things are developing. And I think it led to a much more streamlined sort of pricing activity.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that typically we issue our drawings based off the model to the general contractors for pricing as a moment in time right before construction documents, just to do a gut check on pricing. And what ended up happening is that we issued the Reflect model in addition to our drawings, and we went out to bid for 5 general contractors, and almost all 5 were within range, like $5 of each other, which is very rare that we get that close of competition. And so I think that allows the clients and architects to make decisions, not solely on cost alone, but really looking at the team in delivering the project, which I think is really exciting.
And then where we are at now and what we are also really excited about. So everything up until this point in our presentation has been what you can do in the Reflect viewer without any customization. But an incredible thing, having been burned in the past in this conversion, is we can actually take our BIM data, the lighting information that we build into the file, materials, and we can port it into the Unity editor very quickly. So this Reflect actually shows up as a package within the editor, and then you're able to import different models. These are all different iterations of moments in time, as well as some experimentation, but you're seeing here that it's click of a button to import, and it's maintaining all of this metadata that's coming out of Revit for us. So all of the componentry, It's also translating light sources, and in the past, this has been an incredibly manual process. And so it allows us to start with focusing on how we want to build out a customization rather than how are we going to translate the work that's already been done into the editor. And then this is another example of what that can look like. So where we're at now is exploring with the contractor on the job how we take what has been a process tool and fold it through to how it can be valuable in the construction process.
And we just issued the drawings for construction, and we're in the middle of the permit process. But this is an example of the shop architects and how they use it in the field for construction with AR. And this is what we're hoping to do for this project come spring. So really building a more interior focused experience. But this is really what we're hoping to do and leverage the use of this product so everyone can see it live. And what we just found out is the latest version of this you don't need the image markers anymore. So it can just tie back to the model much easier.
Definitely, and we're excited to see what we had kind of mentioned. The team is distributed both on the Unity side, but as well on the IA side. And so we're excited to see where this can add value to a distributed team and still have it feel like you get the benefit of being on site directly and getting those updates in real time. All right, and with that, we'll post these in the chat as well, but some resources. We'd love to engage with anyone that's interested in how we've been able to benefit from Reflect. There's also a couple of links here for how to get started with a free trial, some information on Unity's AEC solutions, and then a link at the bottom to join the discussion as well. And with that, thank you guys for being with us, and we'll hand it back over.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manuel and Kat. That was fantastic. All right, everybody. So next up, we have a spotlight video showcasing some AEC use cases. This video is a little longer than the others, so we'll be back in about 5 minutes.